Hey everybody. So we're starting with Auric program number 4, which is angels. So I think there's the obvious, it's for angel work and, any sort of increasing conductivity, be it to an angel or deity or some sort of spiritual practice, can be helpful in meditation. But the other thing to think about is like when we do work with angels, we have to make ourselves kind of conductive to the angels in a particular way to even invoke them properly. Um, so this is uh, taking the regenerative state to a much deeper degree. So, excuse me, this would be things to do with like vagal tone, regeneration, even inflammation in the body. Excuse me. Um, so regeneration in the body, and then things that are deeply psychological that take a bunch to shift. I'd say one area is things like drug addiction, insomnia, things like that. It could be any sort of addiction, but especially drugs, just because, well, I guess any addiction, just because that it's a lot of that it's about managing pain, the drug addiction. So, but anyway, um, could even be used for stress. I think I have that in the notes. But let's pull out our angel support. This one I find to be this one in the zodiac. Man, they knock me out. Like they totally knock me out. So we're going to do the standard approach first, and then we'll do the advanced. So with the standard approach, go ahead and begin inhaling. Your awareness is on the left side of your body, left side of your face and neck, your left shoulder, down the ribs, the hip, down the outer leg, to the left outer ankle. Down the whole left side. Nice, long, slow, deep breaths. Now go down the front side of your body, your face and throat, your chest, your abdomen, all the way down the front to the tops of your feet. Yeah, very soothing. Yeah. You're working the whole front side from your face all the way down to the tops of your feet. And then the right side of your body, right side of your face and neck, your right shoulder, down the ribs, the hip, down the outer right leg to the right outer ankle. Nice, long, slow, deep breaths. Mhm. Yeah, very nice. And then pause and be still. Just pause and be still. Now we're going to do the advanced approach. Oh, I'm sorry. I don't think we did, did we? I'm sorry. We skipped the back. So let's do the back side. Back of the head and neck, your whole back, your hips, down the backs of your legs, all the way to your heels. And then just be still. Just be still. Notice your body, your emotions, your thoughts. Now we'll do the advanced approach. Okay, so we're going to go a bit deeper this time. So you're beginning with the left side of your body. Nice, long, slow, deep breaths. From the side of your face, neck, your left shoulder, all the way down to the left outer ankle. Nice, long, slow, deep breaths. Now you're going to the back side of the body, back of the head and neck, your whole back, your hips, down the backs of your legs to your heels. Nice, long, slow, deep breaths. Now the right side of your body, right side of your face and neck, your right shoulder and ribs. Keep going all the way down to the right outer ankle. And then the front side of the body, your face and throat, chest, all the way down, front of your pelvis, front of your legs, all the way down to the tops of your feet. And then pause. Pause and be still. Just pause and be still. Now, begin inhaling with your awareness on your knees. It can be the whole knee, like you do the front, sides, and back, or at the very least, the back of the knee. Nice, long, slow, deep breaths. In the ankles, your awareness is on your ankles. Again, nice, long, slow, deep breaths. And then soles of the feet. Your awareness is on the soles of the feet. And then just pause and be still. Hmm. Well, keep it in mind and make you a big bottle. I was doing that with the Zodiac thing, for a while. So now we're going to do the 4 quadrants again, but we're going to go back in the other direction, which is also the standard approach. So we work it, going left, back, front, or right, front. That is like an unwinding, a deeper cleanse. And then we go back this direction we're about to do, and this kind of strengthens positive patterns within the energy body and the aura. So you're inhaling, your awareness is on the left side of your body, from the left side of your face, all the way down the side to the left outer ankle. The front side of the body, the face and throat, chest, all the way down to the tops of your feet. the right side of your body, right side of your face and neck, your right shoulder, all the way down to the right outer ankle. And then the back side of the body, back of the head and neck, down your whole back, all the way to your heels. And then pause and be still. Okay, so now this is where we're going to somaticize it, or it's a fancy way of saying physicalizing it or concretizing it. Right, concretizing it and physicalizing it into the aura itself, mixing it in our energy body. So with this, our awareness is on the brain. You're taking nice, long, slow, deep breaths. And then your awareness is on the spine. Nice, long, slow, deep breaths with your awareness on the spine. And then your brain and spine, both at the same time. And then the brain and the soles of the feet. As you inhale, you're moving your awareness up above your ankles. As you exhale, your awareness is down into the earth. And then just pause and be still. Pause and be still. How you doing? Very soothing, yeah. Mm. So if you're doing some sort of angel work, you could invoke the name, work the oil, tone the name, visualize whatever you want. But like do this first and it just takes you to that place. Like Samantha was just saying, she was feeling fine, but she felt like more stable and like some layer of something got peeled off. And this is a harder one to say like, oh, this helps in these particular areas. But the way I bottom line it is it just helps the body, the emotions, and mind to regenerate, which means heal on some level. And so, yeah, go ahead and do shares or ask questions. You can unmute yourself, type in, but let's go ahead and we'll do that. And then after that, we'll jump into just regular Q&A.
Go ahead, Priya, then Emiliana.
Hey, Priya.
Just wow.
Yeah.
Just simply wow.
Yeah. I am curious, how are you feeling like before you did this practice? Like, were you feeling just like having a normal day or were you struggling with something? I'm just curious.
I was quiet, and I have been since yesterday afternoon doing some of the practices, which I'll share
Mhm.
in the Q&A sesh. I was already quiet, but as we started doing the standard approach and we did the front, I I don't know what happened.
Yeah, yeah. It makes me wonder, I know I'm the one that makes this, but I'm like, what's in this? Like,
It
let's
is
see. Huh?
so deep. It went so deep. And then you were saying something, and I knew you were saying something, but I wasn't with you.
Yeah.
It was
That's a
amazing.
very, that's a very good, recipe. That's a very good sign, like that you're going that deep. And
I, yeah, it was very healing,
yeah,
deeply. Thank you.
you're so welcome. I'm glad you're feeling so good. Here we
This,
go. Oh, interesting. So it's neroli petitgrin, which is the leaves, where the neroli is orange blossom, and the neroli petitgrin is the leaves. But when the tree is in flower, it's in bloom, it's in flower. And then Palo Santo, and then milfoil, which is a type of yarrow, very deeply healing, and mastic.
hmm,
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
blown away.
Mhm.
Good, good.
Thank you.
And then go ahead, Miliana, then Denise.
Hey, hey.
Hey, I had two two great experiences with this oil, just using the standard protocol
Mm-hmm.
since this week. One patient came in and said she just needed to cry and couldn't find a reason why. So I
Oh,
had to
wow.
do the
Huh?
standard protocol with this oil before I did the acupuncture, and then during the acupuncture she had the emotional release. And then and I it just felt like tension to me. It's
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and then the second patient came in with very concerned over right breast tenderness. There was no reason for it. It was just there and
Mm-hmm.
wound up. So I just reached for this oil intuitively and said, I want you to do the standard protocol and showed her how to do it. And again, she did it for like 20 minutes before I did the acupuncture,
Mm-hmm.
and it completely changed the treatment.
Oh, good.
Yeah, she just I can understand when you say it's difficult to say exactly what it does.
Yeah, it's a hard one to touch. I mean, you can go to like parasympathetic activity, vagal tone, but even something else is happening. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like there's still something else that touches. And if you look at the oils, calming, soothing. Um, the interesting thing that I would say is the neroli and the neroli petitgrin. They do play a role in like like accepting oneself or self-acceptance. Not like, oh, I have this difficulty, but just like parts of ourselves that are like in shadow. And to a greater degree, I think like when neroli and things are like that are used in conjunction with some other plants. I mean, another way of saying that is that it lowers the defense mechanisms. Like it could be physical, it could be psychological. And that's why neroli and bergamot to a certain extent, but neroli is by far the best thing for that self-acceptance. And you know, so I think sometimes when we're processing things, we're processing things from the past, but we might even be kind of processing or accessing parts of ourselves that are in shadow that are coming to the surface or coming to light, or we're moving past something or out of a pattern. Like when I try to think of it, like when I go, it's more than vagal tone. It's more than just like, oh, I can go into rest and repair, and there's something else happening. There's some sort of movement. And I use the plants to kind of go, well, instead of just stabbing in the dark, where could it be going? And I'm not sure that it's completely accurate, but it kind of feels that way. You know, I hesitated even with self-acceptance blend to like call it that, because it's not like uh I would say it's a different kind of self-acceptance. It's not like, oh, I have this issue and I need to accept this part of myself, or I do this behavior. It's more of that self that's in the unknown, that we have our defenses up because it's not part of our everyday awareness. And so we kind of hold it at bay. We don't really do it consciously, but we do it. But it's like when you do this work, or some of the other blends that are kind of heavy and neroli, I find that always happens. It's touching on things that it's like in the dark that you're kind of reaching for and trying to grab onto, but the intellect can't really do it. But something deep is happening when like this, or self-acceptance, and we'll be exploring that more in the resonance class. But even in the resonance class, I was like, I think I might need to put angel support in there, like just because of what it does, because we'll be exploring this idea of self-acceptance and defenses and all of that. And I really think the angel support does hit that defense area, and it could be emotional, mental defenses.
Yeah, in both cases, the patient's fears were diminished by a large extent.
So fears went down. That was your experience. Yeah,
Yes,
see, interesting. That really plays into
um,
what I was thinking.
because both patients couldn't put a finger on what was happening.
Yeah.
They couldn't, like kind of what you said, it
Yeah,
was in the
kind of
dark.
you too. Yeah.
Like it just was in the dark,
Yeah.
and couldn't really pinpoint something. Or the one, the first patient,
Right.
the one with the breast tenderness was just terrified that it was happening at all. And
Right.
again,
Right. Yeah,
didn't know
that's
why
yeah. Yeah.
it was happening.
Yeah,
And
I hear that. Yeah.
yeah, so but in both cases the fear diminished. The both of them, because I just leave them alone to do the protocol. That's how I do it.
Hmm.
I just leave
That's
them
very
alone.
nice. Yeah.
And when I come back, the whole energy in the room is completely different. And it's like,
How
okay,
very cool.
yeah,
I
I'm
love
like,
that it's being integrated into acupuncture. I never thought it would, it just never dawned on me. But yeah, I love
so,
that.
so thank you.
And going on to the fear thing is, there's the stuff that people are going through, but also the world is changing. Like the world is changing pretty significantly, and I don't know. I wouldn't call it unstable, but I'd call it like, okay, what's going to happen today? Every day is kind of like, what's it gonna be today? And I know that moves something deep within us as well, but again, hard to put a finger on. So
Actually, that came up today as well with
yeah,
the second patient with the breast tenderness. She voiced
right.
that very thing. Um,
Yeah,
and I do think that yeah, there were several reasons why I just reached for the angel support oil. Like,
right, right. I mean, I had the same thing, like when I was doing sessions all the time, when social media started becoming a thing, I wasn't realizing like how it would impact people. Like, they'd have a back and forth, kind of like an argument, but it was more on just things that would happen on social media. And like I wasn't quite getting it at first. Just because I wasn't spending time on social media. And then I had a few people talk me through it, and I was like, some of the stuff on social media is really impacting people. And now we look at the things going on in the world, and even if it's not impacting you directly, you just see everything happening, and it's hard not to be impacted, just because the world is changing. Even if you don't define it as good or bad or whatever, the world is changing from what we knew to something we don't know where it's going. And it was probably always that way, but now it's a little bit more in our face, you know. Yeah.
And then go ahead, Denise, and then a couple shares, and then we'll get on to our regular.
Hey, Denise.
Hi. Well, yesterday I was very stressed. I mean, I'd had, some other work done by a dermatologist, and for some reason I just felt like they might not have gotten it all, but just as we started, I got the call that they got everything. So, but I was very, very stressed the whole day. Today, I was very, very calm and more clear. And I think it's probably the group and the energy of this coming in ahead of time
Right.
because I really had it was a total opposite of yesterday. And I
Right.
was like,
Right.
I'm like, I think I need the stress, roller
Right.
ease or something, but what's in the self-acceptance blend? Um,
It is. Let's look it up again, because I know it in my head at the back.
It might be in our thing here. I might be able to tell you. Oh yeah, it's neroli, bergamot, yuzu, and benzoin.
Yeah. There you go.
Bergamot, neroli, bergamot. I'm sorry.
No problem. Yuzu, I'll also post it in the chat.
Oh, thank you.
And so yuzu and benzoin.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Um, so, and I was also thinking just along the lines for my nephew, the one I had spoke to you about, that has he has a lot of triggers for trauma, I want to say. Now, I've already ordered the one that you recommended for his respiratory. I have
Okay.
placed that order and that's should be somewhat starting to come this direction. And then, but would self-acceptance would be, because he gets really fear, he'll go into fear. But he's,
How about self-acceptance? Let me just look at it for a second.
okay.
How about even just this angelic support that we just used?
Yeah, that might be lovely for him.
Yeah. I mean, and if the name throws him off, we could, throw a different label on it and call it, whatever.
I think, thank you. He's pretty tender in a way.
Okay.
So even though he's kind of a bigger guy that does commercial refrigeration, okay,
Right.
in North Dakota, okay,
Oh, wow.
I don't think it will, but like you said, with that breathing thing he has going, and then he
Yeah.
has 3 small
Yeah.
children, and stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, he's just starting to move through this, and was tried to get kind of some answers from his parents, and they're just not going to be able.
Okay.
They're not going to be able to, not at
Yeah.
least at this point in time. That's for sure.
Right.
So,
Right.
but bless his heart for being so brave. How's that?
Yeah.
Thank you so much. I really. I'll look at the stressies for myself too. Thank
Okay.
you so much. Okay.
Good.
And then the couple shares was one person said expanded awareness and flowing energy.
Yeah, boy, very expanded, huh?
And then while doing the last segment, a little above the ankle and soles, I feel like instead of ankle, it goes up to the knee and then goes down. Is that okay?
Yeah. Eventually, it will go all the way up to your brain. You know, at first it's like right above the ankles and then into the earth, and then it'll start feeling like it keeps going up higher and higher. And eventually it will kind of move all the way through the torso and up into the brain. But your body will adjust with that as it happens. And so it'll happen just when it happens. Yeah.
Great. So I just wanna, this does complete the questions and shares of our programming journey for the night. We're going right into your question, guys, so go ahead and raise your hand in chat. But I did post in the chat the next 4 weeks of oils you'll want. It's also in that email you guys get, but I know some of you have the whole kit, some of you are doing it week to week, so I just wanna make sure you all are
Yeah.
ready and
Next week is a assemblage point, maybe.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Every week's a great week, so.
Yeah. It's nice that we get to kind of go through and talk about each one of these one by one. You know, it would take forever to do that in the class, but to go through and just like have a week with it, you know, it really develops a relationship with each one of the oils rather than just looking at it and reading it. You know, we were kind of discussing this as we were driving back from Chicago, you know, going through and doing these processes one by one with each of the Auric programs. It's more of having a direct experience with that blend and that plant rather than an indirect experience based on words that you've written or, you know, something that you've read or something that I've said. You know, it's information, but it's not that direct information and or that direct experience. And I would say the direct experience generates more movement internally and increases your ability to problem solve. And so I like that we're doing this. And this was all Samantha's idea at the end of last year. And boy, it's been a great idea so far.
I know, I'm loving it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm glad we're doing it. All right, and then go ahead, Ralph, then Lolly.
Hey, Ralph.
Hey, first, thanks, Sam. Great
Yeah,
idea.
no joke, huh? This is a brilliant idea. When she said it, I was like, yeah, I was thinking that too. I wasn't.
Okay.
She's
All
just
right.
super smart.
True confession time here. Many, many years ago, I was
Okay.
in a spiritual group, and we were trained to experience energy that was flowing from above the crown down into the earth through the spinal column
Okay.
and from the earth up above. So as you start doing this, the 4 quadrants and the somaticizing, that I've just fallen back into that old habit.
Yeah,
And
I mean, I
it's
don't know what they were calling that, but that's a form of doing a kind of Kundalini practice.
okay.
There's kinds of Kundalini that, you know, kind of what you described, but they might work centers that are above the head and then, you know, below the pelvis and I don't know that there's anything really wrong with that.
Okay.
You know, I would
All
say
right.
if it starts to get too intense or something, but given the practice like how you described it, you know, you've already been doing it. I would say that it's okay.
Yeah. Okay. All right. I just
What
didn't
was
want
the name of that practice, by the way?
to. It wasn't given a name by the person.
Uh-huh.
The leader's name at that time was Toshiro Tachiren.
Yeah, I don't know.
She was a reported to be a walk-in, is what she called herself.
Uh-huh.
And yeah,
Mantak Chia kind of played with some stuff like that.
Mhm.
I don't know if it was exactly that, but you know, different traditions do different things, but it's basically a form of Kundalini practice.
Okay. All
Yeah.
right. I
You
just
know, some
I've
Kundalini is
I just
done.
always really enjoyed it. Just
Yeah.
really enjoyed it.
Kundalini practices, there's a lot of different ways of doing it.
Mhm.
And, you know, there's circulating it through the outer channels, you know, back and forth. And there's the going down the central channel up and down, and sometimes people will do things to like pump it up. There's all different versions of it. And so, you know, I for that, the way that it was being done, I think that's probably fine.
Okay, good
Yeah.
deal.
If it
Thanks.
starts to get weird, let me know and I'll do an evaluation. But I mean, you're
Okay.
probably fine.
Are you still doing personals?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Just get a hold of Sam for that?
Yeah. Yeah,
Okay.
because he's out of the country, right?
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. So
Yeah.
yeah.
All right. I'll set something up next week or so. Thanks.
Perfect.
And then go ahead, Lolly, then Letty.
Hey,
Hi.
hey, so what I'm just curious, what's the fire situation around you these days?
It's much better. I mean, we also had some rain for like a few days.
Right.
So yeah, all of the bigger ones are pretty much 90 something percent
Oh,
contained. Yeah, so it's
what are
much,
they?
much better.
Now it's the mudslides, right?
And yeah, pretty much, yes. Yeah.
It's just
So
like I remember living in Southern California. I was just like, oh, it's mudslide season. Oh,
yeah. And then you get updates of like, oh, flood alerts and yeah. So
right.
we had
Yeah.
that on the weekend, yeah. And today was actually nice. So I mean, everybody's still dealing with, the after effect of things
I can't
and
even imagine.
just
I mean,
beyond.
it's the same with the hurricane stuff on the like on
Mhm.
the coast. Like, we were hearing stories out of North Carolina that I was just, oh my God, I don't know how people do it. Like, I mean, I know you just get in and start doing it, but it just seems so extreme.
Yeah.
But
And I see updates and pictures and it's like it's not even, it looks like a part of a movie that you don't want to
yeah,
watch.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I
So
mean, I
that
think there was a movie about a volcano in downtown LA or something that was
yeah.
got to be almost identical except for the volcano part.
Yeah. They tend
Yeah.
to have all these like movies that
Yeah.
somehow things gonna,
Right.
yeah. So that's what's been going on. So that also kind of reduced the stress levels, which
Yeah, I
is
bet.
good. Yeah. So then to follow up a little bit on last week, and actually it also connects to the Angels blend. So last week I talked about my skin that's been like acting up.
Mhm.
So I've been doing helichrysum, and I just received the milfoil yesterday.
Okay.
I'm doing better. My face looks much better.
Okay.
My body looks, it's better. It's still in the process though.
Right.
So I have some like weird little things like what's happening. So we talked about milfoil last week with the idea of putting it on the wrists to kind of so I'll be able to sweat more. And I've been actually sweating a little bit more before using it because I just got
Okay.
it.
Good. Good.
But what I was wondering about the milfoil, and also it's in the Angels blend that we just did.
Mhm.
What does it actually like? I noticed it in a few blends, but I don't think we talked about it by itself
Yeah.
much.
So milfoil is very, very, I don't know. It's very interesting, very nice. It's actually a form of yarrow. It's the same plant that like that dark blue yarrow that we use that's like super anti-inflammatory. It's the same plant, but it's distilled very differently. And so it's kind of a clearish, it's got a little bit of a light blue, and there's actually a type of milfoil that floats around that's clear with like a almost like a yellow color to it. And so the bluish in an oil is a part of the chemical makeup of the plant is a thing called azulene, and it's very anti-inflammatory, like very very anti-inflammatory, somewhat anti-spasmodic as well. And so milfoil is similar to yarrow, but also a little bit different. It doesn't quite have the inflammatory properties that yarrow does, but I would say more antispasmodic properties. And then, like here, we're using it for the skin or for invoking perspiration. I would say it's a little bit more purifying than normal yarrow. Both yarrow and milfoil also are good for healing very like deep wounds. you know, and it could be a physical wound, could be a psychological wound. Like both would have an impact on slowing down some sort of bleeding and inflammation. Regular yarrow would be a little bit better at it, but you could still use milfoil for that. But I find that milfoil is better at like things that are a bit more antispasmodic, or not antispasmodic. There's spasms there, so you need an antispasmodic. And so a little bit more helpful with that. But it is like anytime when you're trying to heal something like in the inner world, you know, your inner, you know, past or whatever, you really have to get to a place of like deeper like stillness or a deeper kind of level of relaxation, you know, and it's like how we talked about in the regenerative processes where you want to go into rest and repair mode, but there's a greater potential than even just rest and repair. Like sometimes your body really needs like deep healing. And so getting your body to be able to go into really deep rest mode so that something almost kind of magical happens, not just the normal everyday rest and repair, but it's like I'm going to go to the inner world spa and really have an inner experience. And you know, yarrow's good for doing that, but yarrow's not always good for getting you there. And so that's why sometimes, like when I blend some of these things, and I suspect that's why the angel support that we just did, it's got neroli and neroli pedigrin, you know, it's got stuff that would get you there, but the milfoil is really healing and soothing with that. And so you know, because like I go back to like I used to use that a lot on athletes as they were warming up. I'd put several drops of milfoil on their wrist and have them rub it together, and they'd break a sweat really quickly, and they would have these amazing days. And you know, they would be performing for like maybe a week to 10 days. You know, usually when I went on those things, they were at least 5 or 6 days long, if not 10, 12 days long, and they were performing every day. And let's just say for athletes that are performing like that, their stuff comes up pretty hard, you know. And I noticed that when I would start using that on them, everybody would be relatively chill. But the times that I didn't use it, everybody would be at each other's throat, you know, because we'd be doing something and then we'd all be in a van driving to the next location or something. And let's just say there was a lot of very uncomfortable conversations going on if I wasn't doing like deeper therapy on them. And the times that I did, everybody was just kind of chill, you know? And you know, when we look at it from the intellect, we go, is that trauma? Is that fear? Is that stress? Is that conditioning? But I'd say a lot of times those are just facets that we're looking at. And when you get into something deeper, it's usually all of that and some other things. You know what I mean? And like if you can get to that deeper place of healing where the defense mechanisms go down, and you know it's kind of like what I was talking about before, where there's like a level or degree of like acceptance of these other aspects of yourself or these things that are in shadow. Because you know, like when I was younger, I always thought of shadow as accepting something negative, but a lot of times it's not. It's just pieces of yourself that you're not aware of, or pieces of yourself that you haven't explored. And you know, I can say easily, like when I was growing up and in my 20s and even in my 30s somewhat, I was afraid to be successful. Like I was afraid to like be good at something, to be successful, to be whatever, you know, and I can say it's because of this or because of that, but that was there. Like, and it, yeah, there was some stress to it. Yeah, there was some trauma to it. Yeah, there was some fear to it, but it was some weird, deep thing. And going about it like normal ways didn't really do very much. And trying to manage it with my intellect made it worse usually, like substantially worse. And it's like kind of being able to go into these deeper places, you know, those are usually the areas where those things are that we go like, I'd really like to get rid of this pattern, but I don't know how. Like, why is it? Why am I drawing it to me? Why this? Why that? And you know, we're seeing the tip of the iceberg from the point of view of the intellect. But when we go in deeper, there's usually these things that the mind really can't even comprehend it quite so much. And it really is about that movement, you know, and some of the devotional practices and different traditions, you know, where you do like a devotional thing where you try to embody something greater than yourself. So a teacher, um, you know, even using the example of I'll be like Christ or I'll be, you know, whatever. That's still an intellectual kind of point of view, but like to do these like deeper practices, it's like dealing with inner obstacles that you didn't even know were obstacles. You just go, that's just the way that I am, or that's just what I do. When really, from a different perspective, it's like, no, there's my stumbling block. That's my other stumbling block. That's just me. You know, from the intellectual point of view, you go, this is just what I've had to make work. But when you kind of leave the microscope and you keep going out farther and farther and farther, and you go, now let's look big picture. Let's look at it through binoculars or a telescope. You go, oh, that's a series of my internal blockages. And there's a handful of plants that work really good in that area, that realm, and neroli being one of them. You know, a lot of times the premium stuff like the tuberose and rose and things like that. But acacia works really good. Osmanthus and narcissus work really good. But the healing component, milfoil and yarrow work really good. But the deeper I try to go, I tend to use milfoil more than yarrow. Like yarrow feels, and this could just be my projection, but yarrow feels a lot more physical. Like if my body's really having a hard time, give me yarrow. But if I'm trying to do like some psychological thing, still yarrow. It's a different version of yarrow, and it just helps me to go deeper to some place that needs healing, but I couldn't tell you what's even being healed. I can feel the effect of it, but I couldn't tell you what it was. I mean, sometimes I have an idea. Sometimes I see some images or pictures. They're not always disturbing, but they're a little bit disturbing sometimes. You know, I hope that wasn't me in a past life being naughty or something, you know, who knows? But you know,
So that,
but it's good for that. Like I really like it for that.
so then let's say I don't need to use it for, you know, for the perspiration and sweat, then I can still use it for the like the mental benefits.
Mental and emotional benefits, but
Yeah.
also I would say that it's a much better antispasmodic than yarrow. Yarrow's still good. I mean,
Yeah.
really milfoil is yarrow too. It's just
Yeah.
it's distilled differently, different heat, different everything, but it's the same plant coming out of the ground.
Yeah. I mean, to me, it's completely different things because
Yeah.
I personally don't react like the scent of yarrow makes me not very happy.
Right. Right.
Milfoil is nice. Like
Yeah.
it does
Yeah.
completely different. Yeah.
Yeah. And for me as a medical aromatherapist, you know, going back, you know, 30 whatever years, for the longest time when I was using yarrow, it was actually milfoil, like the dark blue yarrow that we use now.
Yeah.
Probably has only been on my radar for maybe 15 years or something. You know, like in the early days, like 30 years ago, it was milfoil. Like that's exactly what it was. Yeah.
And yeah, and it's even, and I realize you even have milfoil in like I think health rays as well.
Yeah.
like
Yeah,
in
yeah.
in the all the different
Yeah.
variations.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm a super big fan of milfoil.
Yeah.
I really like milfoil.
And thank you for that, because really I've seen it before, but I never actually understood what it does. And now that I had a chance to, like, oh, it smells really, I can't even explain what
Well,
it
it smells
smells.
very different. Yeah,
Yeah.
very, very different.
And
And
it's
sometimes, like if it's like hot enough outside and I start inhaling it, I
Mhm.
actually start to feel the little beads of sweat coming
Oh,
out of the skin. Like I don't even have to be moving around. I can just, and I
yeah.
can feel my skin getting moist, you know. Like it's very good for stimulating detoxification. And if we take that conversation further, so physicalizing soul energy into the body, there's different ways of doing it. You know, you can do it with a plant, you can do it with breathing, you can do it a lot of different ways, but a very strong way is that when you're doing like spiritual practice or inner healing, it's breaking a sweat while you do it. That's the whole idea of the sweat lodge. Like it's that there's like you could say there's like tiny amounts of lower consciousness in every cell of your body. There's also tiny amounts of higher consciousness in every cell of the body. And there's something about like when you're doing spiritual practices and then you involve sweat shortly after it or during it, it's like it concretizes it into that lower aspect of that consciousness in the cell, and it will shift the body more so than just like other approaches. And so I even if you're not breaking a sweat, I think that milfoil kind of carries a little bit of that vibe. You know,
Mm.
it's hard to put into words, but yeah,
Oh, that's really cool. Okay,
yeah,
thank you. And so I guess even for, which I guess leads to another question I have. I mean, sweat is detoxifying the body, but really, if there
yeah.
is something really stuck, like even if it's like a liver issue, that the liver is not detoxifying well,
So
then
you can
that
still look
can
at the
be.
skin. Yeah, you still can look at the skin.
So,
Anytime the skin detoxifies, the liver, kidney, spleen,
mhm,
lungs, gallbladder, they all start to detoxify.
mhm. So then
Yeah.
basically, again, it's all connecting together. So using that,
hmm
even if it's like
hmm
a liver issue, kidney issue,
Right.
it would
Right.
still help with that.
It would stimulate the processes. I
Yeah.
mean, you would still need to probably use other things, but it would
Yeah.
definitely stimulate the processes.
And then you would still use it on the skin, like on your wrist. So would you ever
Oh
take
yeah,
it?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah, yeah.
Would you ever?
Specifically on the wrist, or specifically on the body,
Yeah.
like a salt bath or
Mm-hmm.
salt bath with milfoil is really nice. You know,
Yeah.
because you get a little bit of that sweating component.
Mm-hmm.
So for a while, I used to do like meditation or some healing, and then I'd go take a hot salt bath with milfoil, and you know, it was nice. Like it was
Mm-hmm.
definitely doing something.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So okay. That's okay. That's really cool. And would you ever take it internally?
you could. Yeah, sure.
Okay. I have it as a roller ball, but now I'm thinking like, because even so with Yarrow, you would take it sometimes internally, even to just when the body is agitated and you just want to calm down your mind,
Calming,
or
soothing, calming the
so
emotions,
same similar
spasms in the
idea.
gut, bleeding in the
Okay.
gut, anything like
Okay.
that. Yeah,
Okay. Okay.
yeah,
Okay. Thank you.
yeah.
And yeah, and going back to the detox thing, what I started the train of thought with all that's going on. I mean, again, it's going back to like if something is not moving properly and the skin, and so the liver can be one of the things that might be
Right.
like something is stuck there and it needs some detox.
hmm
Um, at the same time, I have been taking internally all the oils that's supposed to be good for that. If it's like, cholesterol support and
Could be
helichrysum.
liver, but it also could be lungs. Like it could be all kinds of things. And so
Yeah.
like that's why I like to go to the skin to stimulate the processes because whatever it is, that's going to stimulate everything.
Okay, so working on this aspect, like working kind of like from the outside in a way.
Kind of. Yeah. I mean, you're utilizing the skin to do what it does. And sometimes when some of those organs aren't functioning quite like they should, it's not always because of the organ itself. It could be other things going on in the body. Like when we were doing those allergy processes where we were doing like a research project, we just like anything that we could think of that was allergy related, we threw it into a protocol. And so we had 21 different things that we did to somebody who came in for allergies, 20 different um, um, healing protocols. And we boiled it down to 9 and then eventually down to 7. When somebody has really severe allergies, how to shift their body out of that. And for digestive issues, one of the big ones was the skin. Like it was a really big one. Like it was the diaphragm, the skin, and then just the nerves of the gut. Like those were the big 3 things that caused like food sensitivities and allergies and things like that. And so like even there, why in the world would you go to the skin for a digestive issue? We like when I started getting the data, I was like, huh. And then it kept happening and it was like, boy, this is shocking. And then after a while, it was like, it's systematic. I mean, it is a very big piece of the puzzle. And, you know, there was a couple of cases where they didn't have crazy severe food allergies, but it was substantial. And, we went through and we did the protocols. And then I went back and revisited, and we just did a bunch of skin work for a while. The allergies completely went away, you know. No, it didn't do that on everybody, but there was part of the population where the work on the skin did it. Some it was the diaphragm, some it was the small intestine, you know, the nerves that innervated the small intestine. So, always good to hit those things, whether you think it's there or not, just to keep everything like working properly so that it doesn't happen. You know, like I don't treat the skin very often, but when I do, I go at it for a couple of weeks and then I always notice, oh God, I feel so much better. Because I would say, even in some cases, I have alleviated certain mood disorders by just treating the skin.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Like again, it's not for everybody, but there was times where a person would come to me non-responsive to all the treatments that are out there for mood issues and everything. And so I'd go, well, let's start outside the box just right off the bat. And there's something about when the skin's really congested, it affects the mind, it affects the emotions, it affects neurotransmitters and brain chemistry, and it can throw a lot of things off. So it's just always a good thing to do from time to time, no matter what.
Okay, that's a good. I mean, and if you're looking at that, I mean, from another perspective, if you're looking in terms of like aesthetics, when somebody, their
Sure.
skin doesn't look good, that affects, the mood and how they feel about themselves and all of that. So,
well, again, the skin being a reflection on the state of the body and also inflammation in the body. So, even in the old days, like in ancient times, like in Egypt and stuff, there would be this great healer. They would be the healer and then also the deity of like, or the go-to being for like beauty, like, and part of that was that you had to have the skill set to reduce inflammation and shift the body out of the state that it was in to have that reflection in the skin and the aesthetics and the way the body broke down, because the aging process is an inflammatory process. I mean, bottom line, it's just your body keeps having more and more inflammation, and it keeps breaking down. So the more you slow down the inflammatory process and reduce inflammation, you are literally slowing down the aging process.
Mm-hmm. Okay, yeah, makes sense. I remember you mentioned that before. Okay, thank you. And then just a couple of things. One really quick. I think last week or maybe a couple of weeks ago, somebody asked about mold exposure, and
Sure.
I don't think there's anything going on, but I'm starting to think maybe there's something here, and I need to kind of treat the stinks and just
In your
clean.
house or in your environment?
In my apartment.
So this is what I would
Sinks
say.
are-
Like, this is what I would say. Like, so I'll tell you the oils, but like if you're genuinely concerned about that, go online and there's these little kits where you swab like your air vents and things, and then
Yeah.
you put it in a petri dish and send it off. I would say, like, if you're genuinely concerned about that, when I did it, I was in Southern California. I want to say it was $25 or something. And lo and behold, we had black mold. And um you know, I was renting there. The landlord was going to have no part of that, so we just diffused oils through the house until we got out of the house, which was still a couple of years. And you know, I don't know that I felt that I had symptoms, but I don't know, something was a red flag, and I was like, let's just test it and see. And it wasn't crazy high levels, but it was enough. And so there is that blend fungal support,
Right.
which is savory and palmarosa, geranium, and I want to say it's tea tree. And so diffusing that, really, even if you're in an environment where there's like mold in the walls or in the vent or something, it really will clean up the air. But especially if it's in the air ducts, it will break some of it down there. And that was actually that formula was the very first thing studied about a medical aromatherapy way back in the day. Like, I don't know, 75 years ago, 80 years ago or something, is they looked at the efficacy of that blend for dealing with molds in the air. So it's not even just like, oh, this is helpful. It's like they looked at it and it was like incredibly effective. And so tea tree is very good for that. Pomerose and geranium are definitely good for that. But savory is also, man, it's like the Marines hitting the beach when it comes to things like molds and things like that. So if you suspect, I mean, you could treat it as if, but I always want to kind of have some sort of validation.
And I'm thinking if it is, so it'll be more in the drains and not in the air vents. So more like the drain.
Oh, I think you can still take swabs of the drains.
Yeah, but then, okay, but let's say it's in the drains, would you still just diffuse something in the air?
Yeah.
Okay. And then I remember you mentioned that about the fungal support, but then looking up on the website, there's also something called mold support. And I'm wondering
that's more for the individual to deal with that. I think we were dealing that for something that was like in Texas or something.
Well, it was originally more internal. So if you look at the oils, it was more for people dealing with more like mold issues in their body.
Right.
Okay, because I didn't know which oils were in that, and then I didn't know what the difference is. Okay.
Yeah. The mold support is much more soothing. The fungal support is much more aggressive about breaking.
No, we need the one but that's why I was like, why is okay, so it's a good thing that I checked because I actually want to order that, and I was like, which one I should, okay, so I'll order the fungal support. Okay, thank you.
And then also like even if you run out of that, diffusing like eucalyptus globulus, diffusing tea tree, like when the hurricane happened, I think we were sending tea tree back to everybody.
We did both. We did the eucalyptus, I think it was globulus, and the tea tree both, if I remember.
So, diffusing that, using it on surfaces, because they were dealing with like flooding. And so after the water's gone, they're going to have, you know, acute mold issues. And so
Yeah.
we sent back several packages of like tea tree and eucalyptus globulus so they could diffuse it and just put it in sprays and even
Yeah.
directly on things and just rub it around, you know, 'cause,
Mm-hmm.
you know, they're cleaning up a crime scene. So,
Yeah. Okay.
you know, so
And
any version of that.
yeah. Okay. And then going back to the diffusing really quickly, we talked about diffusing several
Mhm.
times, especially very recently. And is there, when you diffuse something, how many drops are you putting? Because I
It
mean,
depends
there's
on the diffuser. Like it totally depends on the size and thing of the
because
diffuser.
usually I think they say it's like what, 2 drops per 100 milliliter. I don't know. Like I was wondering if you do a lot more than that because your stuff is so
I don't
thick.
use water diffusers. Yeah, I
Oh,
used to use them, but they always broke. Like to be
okay.
just like blunt, they always get gunged up, and
Yeah.
so I have these like old school diffusers where you actually literally just take the bottle and screw it into this tank, and it just diffuses. And we have like an industrial diffuser that I think is made for like hotels or something. That I don't know. We got it like on Amazon or something. But it's just this big box, and we stick like 4 or 5 ounces of something on it, and then don't touch it for 6 months or something, and
Oh,
it just constantly kicks out a scent, just around the clock. So I mean, I use the where it's going directly into the bottle or we pour it into a bottle and it's like no water, no anything. I used to
okay.
use water diffusers and I think we still have one in one of the rooms. We just don't use it very much. But they take so much time to like clean up and
Yeah.
um
And it
uh,
doesn't feel like it's doing that much,
yeah, you could
which,
try increasing it, but the thing that I
yeah,
would say is that like heavier oils, like thicker oils, are going to gunk it up more, and that's
yeah.
probably why those things were getting gunked up. Let's be clear, it was probably user error on my part, where I was putting in like frankincense and myrrh and aloes, things that were heavy and viscous,
Mm-hmm.
and they just weren't made to handle those things, and so. You can try increasing, but it really does depend on the diffuser.
But it's fine. I don't mind
Diffusers are
switching.
so much more inexpensive than they used to be, but at the same time, they're not as tough as they used to be. I mean, I still have a diffuser that I use that is 35 years old.
Yeah, and you
Like,
mentioned
I
that.
mean, I've had a lot of water diffusers that lasted maybe 3 or 4 months, but that one, like, a couple pieces of glass have broken, but the motor and the diffusing into the air still
Mm-hmm.
works like the day I got it.
Okay. So yeah, but I had a feeling using something else that's more, I don't mind switching to something else that works better. So okay, thank you.
Yeah.
And
They're harder to find, and they're usually a little bit more expensive, but they last
but
like a
if it
really long
works, I don't
time.
mind.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
Okay.
we've been running that one in the bedroom for
That's what I was
six,
just
six, 8 months.
I
Like
might email
every,
you to
yeah,
yeah, to
every day.
ask about.
They don't make it anymore. We
Oh, that's
we
the one they don't.
Yeah, we found it in some weird little store, and we both like were like, "Oh, get that!" And do you have any more of these? And
Oh my
but
God.
it probably had sat there for 25 years, 20
Yeah.
years, and it was still like $85.
Mm-hmm.
Like it
Oh,
was the original price.
yeah.
So, you know,
Okay.
I
I'll
think
do
they
some
call them
research.
nebulizer diffusers. Feel free to email us
yeah,
still just the same.
Okay.
And the
Okay.
water ones, because I have used them for years as well. I just find you have to put a lot of drops in.
And
Yeah.
yeah.
And that's why the nebulizer ones are the ones directly like that
Yeah.
actually just feel more effective, not just the cleaning up.
right.
That's one thing, but
Okay.
even the
Is
amount
that
of
what they call
oils.
them? The nebulizer
I
or
think that's what they call 'em,
atomizer
yeah.
or something?
Okay. Thank you. Because I realized that something is not working out. And I'm like, there's no
Yeah.
way that that's what you're smelling and you're so happy about
Yeah.
diffusing.
And,
Okay.
and you know what else is a good thing to use is those ones that are just like a soapstone where you put a tea candle in.
Mm-hmm.
Put a little tiny bit of water at the top and just put a whole bunch of oils on the top
Yeah.
there and let it. That's a very good, inexpensive way to do it.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. I think, and then just a quick one about the salt bath, because I had a conversation earlier with somebody here. Salt bath, I usually tell people don't do Epsom salt. But is that correct? Does it make a difference if it's regular salt or Epsom salt if we're doing it for our purposes of cleaning, the
So I would say like regular salt is a little bit more cleansing than Epsom salt, but
okay.
Epsom salt has a stronger soothing effect on the body and the nervous system. Like it's better for the muscles and things. And
Right.
so depends on what you're trying to do. If you're trying to do energy hygiene, I would say just salt. If you're trying to
Yeah.
do something for the body, you could do Epsom. What I used to do a lot was I'd put like half and half. And so I
Okay.
got the energy part, but I also made my back relax. You know what I mean?
Okay, so you can do that.
Epsom
Okay.
salts are great for like a bad back or a
Right.
sore shoulder or knee or something. They work amazing. I still put
Exactly.
about a pound in, but you know, if I'm doing a little energy hygiene, it still works. Regular salt works better. But if the
Okay.
body's achy and you're
Yeah.
got a bad back, Epsom salt by far is much better.
Yeah, but then for energy, okay, but then the fact you can mix both of them, that's a good
Yeah.
idea.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much.
And then go ahead, Letty, then Priya. I know Priya, you lost your spot a little bit earlier, so go ahead, Letty.
Hey, Letty.
Let's get you unmuted.
Okay, can you hear me?
Okay, there
Yes.
you go.
Okay, yeah, sorry. It's because I have two devices going on. Hi Greg, hi Sam.
Hey.
So Greg, I don't want to sound like every time I talk about my job, but I had a situation that happened at work. That I feel like I got triggered and I was super surprised because I felt like all the practices that we do kind of are supposed to help me not to get triggered. So I'm just wondering what kind of happened there. So I feel like we're two separate groups. It's like myself with admin and then the other three ladies in my office. So
Mm-hmm.
the administrator came and talked to our school psychologist because they wanted to get a student tested. And our school psychologist is very, I don't know, she's just a little different. Like by law, the parents have the right to get a kid tested. I'm thinking parents are not out there every single day. I don't think there's too many parents that want their kids like tested for special education. I mean, I feel like if you count your blessings, you have a normal kid, versus like, I don't think too many people are dying to get their kids tested. I think if they want their
Right.
kids tested, it's for a reason, right?
Right. Right. Right.
But she's really big about like going step by step or whatever. So I just feel like special education and what we call them like school psychology area, we're not seeing eye to eye. So I'm not sure what has to happen there. The thing about it is that like I feel like I got triggered because I'm in the middle.
Yeah, I mean, definitely triggered. Are we sure that she hasn't been told to be really slow about it?
Well, I mean, I don't know. This is the first LSSP that we get
But
that,
you know, like it might be a directive given to her from her superiors, like, you know, not be, because there's the well-being of the child, but then there's people who are also just thinking of the budget and things like that. And so, I mean, it doesn't really change anything. I'm just curious. It could be her personality, but you never know.
well, her
But so
personality is a little different. She does seem like she's above us, like, because she's a school psychologist, like she's more educated, more whatever, she just carries herself like that. So there's a little bit of arrogance in her.
okay,
Just a side note.
okay.
And yeah, I just felt like the vice principal came in, talked to her, questioning her, and I just feel like I'm in the middle. Like I'm
And
not playing like,
so when you're in the middle, what does that feel like to you? Like you're doing something wrong, you're not going to please everybody, it's not going to be okay, something bad's going to happen. Do you have some feeling that arises?
I have a feeling that I just like at the end of the day, I'm just kind of like, ugh, it was just like a horrible day today. Like that's kind of the feeling I end up at the end of the day.
But do
Right.
you know what made it horrible? Like, is it like I didn't please everybody, or there's conflict, or is there like some feeling like if you sit with it that kind of comes up or arises out of that?
It's just a conflict that we have between the school psychologist and then like us. You know what I mean? Like,
But how does it make you feel? I guess is what I'm saying.
mm, um, just I don't really even know how to describe it other than I just like felt like it was like a horrible day today. Like, at the end of the day, I like analyze, oh, was I productive? Was I not? Was it a good day? Was it a bad day? That day it was just very like a very heavy feeling. Like I was just and I started inhaling chakra root cleanser and it kind of calmed me down. But yeah, I can't describe like exactly like what exactly the feeling is. Like it's not fear, it's just a feeling of to discomfort. Like I don't
Okay, let me just sit with that for a minute. So,
like I'm better now, Greg, obviously because of the classes, but I just don't want to have that
no,
feeling
but
again.
I like the idea of addressing like what's triggering it.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not super clear. I can see kind of the trigger, but I'm not clear why it's happening. But it doesn't really matter. Like, if you can kind of pinpoint a treatment, then you just do the treatment. And understanding sometimes comes and sometimes it doesn't. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I would use a couple of things, but I would try this first one, which is Violet Flame, which is right out of that last class that we just did. Um, and then do the pattern um, where you go brain, spine, brain, soles of the feet.
Mm-hmm.
And you could, in that class, how we do the process for the sex chakra and then the main men. I would do that first, just because, like, if you look at somebody being triggered, those are the two centers that get triggered. It's the instinctive response sends a message to the Ming Men and goes, "Hey, let's get a little adrenal support here, and like, let's really get like,
Mm-hmm.
into a fight flight mode." And so you're regulating those two centers. And a lot of times when we're dealing with something that's like a trigger like that, it is a bit of a conditioned response. It is like something bad has happened repetitively, or there was a really bad event, or sometimes it's not about an event, but it's been like have you ever been in the room where like, if I say something wrong, this person's gonna come over and hit me. That's a stressful day. But if you dealt with that for 30 years, you just always be in that mode. You know what I mean? Like, if I
Mm-hmm.
say something wrong, even if that person's not there, somebody's gonna come over and just hit me, right? And so, you know, whenever we see situations that are triggering, I always try to understand it a little bit. The understanding doesn't really shift it up a bunch, but it does give you a heads up of like, hey, I'm in situations that have this potential. Maybe I need to do a little work there. But a lot of times, if you can work that spinal thalamic tract the way that we've been doing, but the oils that are in there were like a good start, but it doesn't mean that covers everything. It was just, we could have done the whole weekend on just that, doing that spinal thalamic tract, and still probably not covered everything. So I would say let's have you start with Violet Flame and do that. And Violet Flame would It would clean up like thought forms and responses, but especially that are a little bit more trauma oriented. And we think of trauma, we think of trauma thought forms, which is it, an even stronger, like, the more potent the emotion or the thought, the more it starts to turn into a form, right? And so that's there. But then there's also just the byproduct of, the crap that's happened and what it does to your body and to what it does to your nervous system and what it does to the emotions and mind. And, if you think about that situation for yourself, there's kind of like no right, no wrong, and you're trapped. Like, so it's like no matter what you do, it's gonna suck. You know what I mean? And
Yes.
um, for one, that's triggering to just about anybody until you really work on, like, okay, my job is not about pleasing everybody, it's about doing the right thing. That takes a lot of time to get to that place. Like nobody just walks into a situation and goes, I have this, like I have this ability to make the right decision. And even though a bunch of people are not upset at me and some are, I'm still okay. That's a kind of conditioning that you have to cultivate. And so, I mean, I don't think it's that weird that you're having that issue. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
that's why I was asking, like, how much of this is dynamics of this person's personality? How much of it is, even within an organization, there's pieces that are at odds with each other. So, like, you're trying to get the proper care for somebody, but at the same time, somebody has an opinion about what that definition is or whatever. And then there's the budget issue and the time issue and the staff and how are we going to handle this, and it's other people's opinions coming in. And so we want to get you to the place where you can do the right thing and not really have to be worried about, like, this person's upset. There's times to be tactful. Like,
Mm-hmm.
if you're in a meeting and you say something that's upsetting and there's a light writing in there, you just need to be tactful or maybe need to be a little bit more quiet. But here you're just trying to do your job. And so I would say the triggering is probably going to make you, like, the more you get triggered, the more you're trying to, like, make peace with everybody, adjust your decisions so that people aren't upset, or over explaining. Like, I got to explain this to a really super high degree so that they hear me and they understand and they back down and they don't get upset. And well, if they're going to get upset, explaining and explaining and explaining, my experience is it didn't change a thing. Like, most times they're not even listening to what you're saying. And so, I mean, trust me, I tried, but it doesn't really work. And so it really is like, how can we get you into your place where you are able to kind of stand on your own 2 feet, and not that you don't, but in these situations, like, you're standing in your power or your authority, that you are in this position and you need to make these decisions. And it's just not like a personal opinion. You're trying to do the best thing you can for the child.
Mm-hmm.
And if you have to cut through some red tape or be a little bit at odds with a psychologist or a boss or something like that, that you can do it, but not in a way that burns the bridge. You can be
Mm-hmm.
kind of tactful about it. And the more that you can reduce triggers in this area, the more tactful you can become. Much more
Okay.
tactful.
And of course, I've been at the school already. I don't know, I've lost count. It's like maybe my 15th or 16th year. And I
Mhm.
think this is, even admin says, this is the first time that we've seen a school psychologist like pushback. But like you said, we don't know. I mean, you're right. We
Yeah,
don't know if it's her,
I mean, very
or we
well
don't
could be
know
a
if it's coming from
personality.
up above.
Yeah, yeah, very well could be a personality. But for me, like, when I would come into situations with consulting, I'd watch people, and sometimes it was personality, but a lot of times they were given instructions, and Just like how you get triggered, they get triggered and they become like they overcompensate a little bit. And so whenever I see somebody like overcompensating, or I don't know, I used to refer to it as over behaving. You know what I mean? Like it almost doesn't make sense, but like you know it when you see it. It's like either there's a personal agenda or there's an agenda from somebody else that is causing that behavior.
Okay.
Yeah. And we've had a discussion about this person several times. So that's why I go, I haven't crossed it off my list, but it feels like somebody's agenda. You know,
Okay.
still could be hers, but
Because she reaches out to her, like she reaches out to her bosses, you know what I mean?
yeah, see, that makes me think more of that it's somebody else's agenda.
Hmm.
You know, if you're trying to cut budget, that would be a place.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Hmm. And
So
it's
so
just,
if that's the case, then you know whatever you do, and even like in meetings, go, how come, I'm going to do this in a very simple way, and you know how to apply this better than I do. But even when you're interacting with people, like, how can we do this in a more effective way or efficient way so that basically keep costs down and not make it so we have to have a whole bunch of meetings. I mean, granted, you have to follow procedures, but at the same time, how can we cut down the back and forth so this isn't as expensive as it is? Like, how can we refine this process? I don't know that I would use those words, but it's that idea. And sometimes, if you know that that's what's happening, you can kind of resolve a little bit of the issue, knowing that if that's the agenda, like the budget, then if you can do it in ways where you reduce like labor and costs and things like that, then you're more likely to get what that child needs through,
hmm,
because it's not this big budget issue.
correct.
Yeah.
And also there's been times where like literally in a meeting and like she's just so random, like she wants to randomly like, okay, well, I feel like we should test it this time, right? And I'm thinking like, we have other people that are really need get testing, and you're going to test this kid because you're thinking maybe this kid can exit out of special ed, which is okay. Yeah, we want to do that, but
See, is she
it's,
trying to push people out of special ed?
yes, definitely. Like
She's
whenever she
been
sees somebody,
she's been given a directive. I guarantee you.
yeah, whenever there's like somebody, boom, like that looks like, hey, they should don't belong in special ed, like, hey, let's test them and see if they continue to qualify.
So if you know that she's been given a directive, let that be a part of your process, and keeping costs down, but I guarantee you she's been given a directive.
Okay. Okay. Greg, so another thing was yesterday I went to work and halfway, like, well, actually in the morning I felt like a stomach pain, and I was thinking to myself, right now that you were talking about the skin, I was thinking, well, maybe because I have not done the parsley salt bath in a while, so possibly
Do
could be the
parsley,
skin.
do helichrysum, and do a little milfoil on the wrist, like we have Lolly doing.
Yeah.
That's always super good. I mean, spikenard's very good. Even hyssop's very good for the skin, but like sometimes you just gotta decongest the skin.
Yeah.
Another good one is coffee, like doing coffee baths.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and what happened was I was at work and I just randomly got like a really sharp well, I had gotten in the morning before I went to work, and I just kind of like thought, oh well, it's okay. I mean, I just didn't think much of it. But when I got to work, like right before 10 o'clock, I was like, holy moly, I don't know if I can stay here with this sharp pain. So I came home halfway through the day. And then today I stayed home just thinking like, well, let me see what
Where's the pain
happens.
at?
It
Where's
was
the
just my
pain?
stomach, like right directly in the middle of my stomach. Like it was just
Up high, in the middle, or down low?
um more like up high.
Try
And
using
there's
some.
a virus going around too a lot right now. There's a like
Yeah.
all different, like there's flus, there's stomach viruses going around at school, and that's why I just thought like, well, maybe I got a stomach virus. But today, I felt better today. I just woke up with a bad headache, and I just thought like, you know what,
Try
let me just
using some clove, like a few drops of clove in water, and drink it a couple times a day.
okay.
Yeah. It'll be very antispasmodic to the gut. And if you're getting sick, it's still helpful for whatever, but very plus it's very like balancing to your immune system and things, and can even reduce some irritation in the skin somewhat.
And I did also take some of the is it called the intestinal detox, or what did you call that one?
Yeah, yeah. There's so many I'd have to look up
I
which
know.
it's,
I was
but I
like,
know
do I
there's one
like
that's called
did I
intestinal
yes,
detox.
it's intestinal detox. Yeah, I did take a couple of drops of that as well. But so also just one more thing, Greg. My left hand side shoulder blade kind of has is acting up again, but then it doesn't help. I slept wrong, so it's like now my neck. So it's my whole like left side of my neck, left shoulder blade area. And I had my sister put some lemongrass on it, and she was like rubbing me out. But do you think lemongrass is gonna do it? Because I still feel it today, or do you think I need to do something stronger, more like the pain relief antispasmodic or the pain relief neuropathic?
Try pain soothe. Just the good old fashioned pain soothe.
Okay, I'll try that.
Yeah. On the, like you said, around the shoulder blade, on the shoulder blade, but also on the front.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much, Rick. Thank you.
You're so welcome.
And then go ahead, Priya, then Channing.
Hey, Priya.
I love the mashup classes.
Oh, good.
They are amazing. And yesterday, for a couple of hours in the afternoon, my mind was spiraling like anything. It was like an inner hurricane. And I thought, what should I do? Spend a few minutes, and then I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna do the trial class one more time from the
Mhm,
weekend.
mhm.
And as soon as I did the sacred yellow, it was
Yeah.
gone.
Yeah.
The
Yeah,
the
those sacred
shift
colors, the
was
sacred healers, the sacred yellow and sacred blue and sacred violet, they're pretty potent.
the shift was so substantial that
Mhm.
I will never forget it. It was amazing. And I still continued on with the practice, but by the time I reached Yarrow and Siberian fir, oh my God. I was like, these mashup classes, they're so
Yeah,
creatively put together, they're so much more fun,
yeah.
and they're so much more potent. But I feel like I already was a little bit flexible with my approach and my personal practice, but this has extended it
Oh,
furthermore.
good. Good.
I love it.
We're going to
Thank you
do a
so
bunch
much.
of them. We're going to do at least one mashup class a month.
You know what? I gotta be honest with you. I have a feeling that these the Purva already was pretty solid, this one.
Mhm.
But doing the oil practices, it feels like in the last week or so, I feel it even more
Yeah,
using the
yeah,
tool.
yeah. Well, that's
And
why we
it could
do the
be.
tools is they overlap of what we do. Yeah,
And it could be because the inner is shifting. And
yeah,
so
yeah,
that connection with the tool is, I don't know, but it was amazing.
yeah.
Another share, just a quick one. Mom reached out with some rose oil and everything else put aside. When somebody reaches out for an oil protocol, I have a different hat on.
Right.
So I guided her through the going deeper into the heart practice from the vibration class, and she was in a bliss. So much so that she shared that to her, it felt like, because I used the word cave, and she said,
Mhm.
as soon as Priya, you said cave, it felt like my whole spinal column was outside of my body, and I'm sitting in the center. It was so blissful.
Oh,
So
nice. Yeah,
she must have repeated the practice a few times in like a span of 12 hours
yeah,
or something. It was
yeah,
amazing.
yeah.
Oh, thank you. Thank
Yeah,
you so
Rose is
much,
perfect
Sabine.
for her for that practice, by the way. Yeah, very good.
It was really good.
Good.
It's
I'm glad you're getting such good results.
very happy. I'm very, very happy because inner gets chaotic, but at least now I know that I have tools and resources.
Hmm.
Everything is here. It's just a matter of me figuring it out intuitively. When do I need what? and
Sure.
it's unfolding slowly.
Yeah. And we'll
With
keep doing
regards,
those mashup classes.
yeah, I love them. I
Okay,
look forward to more.
we're gonna do a whole weekend of one. What was
Quest,
it? The foundation of mystical healing, and then the mystical approach to chakras.
Is in
2 weeks,
2 weeks, I
and we're
think.
gonna do it the whole weekend. We've
yeah.
been doing just one day, but yeah.
No, I love it. And especially, I mean, the first time when I did the class, I felt yesterday was even more deeper for me.
Hmm. Yeah.
So it's very strange how sometimes I'm doing the same practice and but different times, different experiences. And yeah, it's amazing. I hope one
Good,
day there's a
good.
mashup class where we use the tools also.
It's coming.
Awesome. I would
Yeah,
love that.
yeah.
With regards to questions, just
Hmm.
quickly, being defensive in
Hmm.
behavior,
Hmm.
is that instinctive response or a defense mechanism?
It's actually a combination. It's a combination of instinct, of emotion, and the lower mental.
Mm,
Yeah, it's the combination, and so and it's also tied to the nervous system. The fight flight mechanisms, but we always are cultivating the higher nature, or trying to experience. In the resonance class, we're going to do practices about refining the lower nature so that it's not a bucking bronco. You know what I mean? It's not
mm,
like always trying to tame a dragon.
mm.
There's ways that like you can calm those things down as well. And so in that class, this last weekend we did like higher consciousness. Like there, we're going to do lower consciousness and about like taming that bunking bronco. Yeah.
That would
It
be nice.
makes it easier for things to merge. Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
And I also look forward to a class on defense mechanisms where, because I've started to identify like, just little things that come up.
Mhm. Yeah.
And is there already a class on it, or
It's next weekend. Yeah. Resonance.
is that the resonance one? Yep. Okay,
Yeah.
good.
Yeah. Resonance. So it's in the vibrational class. We just kind of barely start touching on it in the vibrational class. And, sometimes when we're treating like clinical things, we'll touch on it a little bit, but this is more of like the mystical deep dive of going after defense mechanisms, because whenever you're dealing with something that's like negative like that, there's a flip side where there's also this great ability, or this great like experience, or as potential to tap into there. And so, you know, even when you look at something negative, there's always a way to work through that and make it something where it becomes this amazing ally or this great teacher or something. And so that is going to be about refining the lower nature. It's kind of when I say, like, oh, it's about how we react to the environment and how the environment reacts to us. A lot of that is just like, even when you have a conflict with somebody, it's lower nature versus lower nature, and they're just going back and forth. And you might have something like with a relative or a friend, you're like, how could they behave like that? They're accessing a piece that's that bunking bronco, and they're not really thinking, they're not really choosing, they're just reacting. And then all that calms down, and they have their other emotional components, and sometimes they pull out of it, or sometimes they defend it and justify it. But a lot of times it's not a choice, it's just a reaction. And so you know we keep going deeper and deeper into calming and taming those things that are our personal like reactions to things, so that we get to choose more, and we get to be more of who we are. And we get to bring forth the things that our ideals, or our our way that we think in our inner realm, we want to be able to bring it forth into the physical world. And that takes effort. That takes a lot of effort. For most people, it's just there's an inner world and an outer world, and there's just reactions. But when you're wanting to express that inner to the outer world, it's like you got to walk down these metaphorical long dark corridors for a while before you get it out there. You know what I mean? And those corridors can be a little scary. There's not really anything bad there, but they're just scary. And so we're going to refine that process.
It's not a nice place that those corridors. I'm
Yeah.
quite familiar with them. But
Think about any
one
time
thing,
you want to go do something and you're a little bit afraid, you're in one of those corridors. You know
mm,
what I mean? You're in some weird tunnel that's like, ugh, you know.
what I do know is that these practices are definitely heading me in the right direction. I
Yes,
can
I would
feel it.
agree. Yeah, I would agree. You and me both.
Mm.
Yeah.
And yesterday I was doing the practice, and there was this feeling that my reactions to anything are a force. And this force is so powerful sometimes, and it's so strong, but I'm aware of it. And what if this total sum of force was put in the, good orderly direction?
Yeah.
But I mean, that
I
thought is there.
when I was very young, I used to have this teacher, it was a shamanic teacher, and he used to joke, he'd go, the mind is a terrible thing. And back then there was this thing floating around, the mind is a terrible thing to waste. But he would just stop it. The mind is a terrible thing. And then he'd pause for a little bit and he goes, until it's been properly trained,
Mm.
you know. And I don't know that it's a terrible thing. I think he was trying to shock us a little bit, but the mind, just like that primordial part or that lower part, a lot of it is like culture and how we're raised and society is it's good for society, but it's not necessarily the best for the individual. And it's good for us to be able to live in a society and function in a business, but it's not always the best thing for the individual. We have to be able to find that on our own because nobody's going to show it to us or teach it to us. And so, these practices are more about that, doing what's best for the individual. And it helps you to function better in the world. It helps you to function better at work or in a relationship or dealing with difficult people. But the benefit of it is it's shifting something in you that even when those situations goes away, there's something that woke up or came to the surface or whatever you want to call it.
Mm. It feels like the best in me. Yes, definitely. That's what this work is for, but it's like it's not the best for the little me. It's
No,
not
the little me being
like it
the
feels
the one that like I would say the little me is like the me of the intellect, that
mm,
thinks things should be a certain way, and if I do this, that happens, and why this, why that, it's just it's making the little me eat its vegetables and grow up a little bit, because it's like what I was saying the other day. I don't know, in one of the classes or something, like there's still like little 5 and 6 year old Gregs that I see, like, little tendencies there. I was like, yeah, that was when I was 6. I still haven't grown out of that, and it's just I haven't put my attention on it. And it's usually nothing big, but it's there. But we all got them, you know.
and today I'm saying all this, but tomorrow maybe, there will be that inner hurricane again. But I know that I've got some tools and some
Yeah.
handy resources
And the more you
to
keep
reach out
calming
for.
it down, at some point it reaches a flipping point.
Hmm. Just last quickly, Sitka and Milfoil, what do they teach us? I'm just curious.
Milfoil would be the same as very similar to Yarrow.
The inner sense,
Yeah, like I might have to look that one up and
yeah, yeah.
email it to you, or we'll talk about it at maybe I'll process some more of the notes and put it out to you guys in a
Yeah.
newsletter. So yeah, but those are
Nice.
definitely good ones to do. Yeah,
Thank you so much.
you're so welcome.
And then go ahead, Channing, then Robert.
Hey, Jenny.
Hi, Greg. Hi, Sam.
Hey,
Really appreciate everyone's discussion and shares tonight. I'm learning so much, and I can relate to a lot of it too. So, Greg, guess what?
Mhm. What's that?
Guess who got back together with her boyfriend because the boyfriend
Oh,
decided that he had a change of heart. So I don't know how I feel about that, given what we had
yeah, a
talked
little
about. So I
bit.
just wanted to check
They're
in.
they're young. Sometimes these things are like tipping over a Coke machine. You don't just walk over and push it over, it rocks back and forth. Either it works out or it doesn't. But like, we do like what we're talking about. You just stabilize everything, and if it's gonna work, it's gonna work.
Something shifted in her because of that. And I
Yeah,
think what really shifted was the healing that you did.
yeah,
I can see the shift in her
yeah.
emotionally. So whatever you did, thank you.
Oh, good. Good, good.
Um, and I can see her, how do you say it? I can see a little more of her, like actual her, like her essence or authenticity coming forward because of that.
Yeah, yeah, because
I mean, it was a
yeah,
wild
it
emotional
sounded
roller
wild.
coaster
I
where it
mean,
actually impacted me.
you didn't really give me a lot of details, but it sounded wild. But if you look at the situations, it's kind of like similar to what we talk about here, where um, she's young and she's, gone off to college and everything, and there's these ideas of how things are or should be or the way she wants them, and they're like really hypotheticals. And then when it hits the real world, it's not what she's experiencing, and then she has some direct experiences and it's at odds with her hypothetical stuff. And at
Mhm.
some point, something kind of shifts, and um that's just what we shoot for with anything. And so, but I'd say for you know there's a clinical name for that. It's called the 20s, like, or the early 20s. You know what I mean? It's
20
just like,
something.
it's
That's
like
funny.
that. I think about the stuff that I did between like 18 and 25, and I'm like, uh, God, what a mess I was. Just a hot mess. Thought I was so cool, though. I thought I was so cool. And, I think it's good to help people like through that process, because really the thing that's going to be the teacher and the thing that's going to be healing is the experience itself. And you have a couple of those experiences, and pretty soon you have direct experience, and you're not just living that hypothetical thing, and you're able to start acting, behaving, producing a result like more appropriately. It's just, keeping the car between the lines while you're going through that. But, the greatest remedy for a bunch of trauma is some sort of success in that area. And then it makes everything else like seem so small. And, whatever that is, you know, good. But like if she still needs to work it out for a bit, keep calming it down, and calming down that bucking bronco. And at some point they get their feet under them. I remember this one case where this couple, they were, I want to say they were early 30s, And God, they were just always, it was always a thing. There was always something going on. And most of the time you would see something like that and you go, you guys just need to forget about each other and go your separate ways. And I'd say most times that is the case. Like, you know, they were just really super at odds with each other, fighting with each other. And then they got married. And I was just like, ugh, that's gonna be rough. And for some reason, being married calmed everything down. Not predictable. Like, you know what I mean? Like some situations that would have made things 10 times worse. For most people, it would have. But for them, it worked. Like it totally worked. And it's been a long time since I've seen them, but they seemed pretty darn happy. And you know, I think it was just they were each feeling very vulnerable, and once the commitment was in place, they settled down. And not everybody's issue is that, but you never know what's going to do it. So like we were saying, just like keep everything the damage control as best you can, but like there's something about the back and forth that they need that direct experience to be able to process and problem solve and adjust themselves. And so you kind of stand back and watch and try to keep things mm, soothed as much as you can, but at some point, that back and forth with them is going to resolve itself. Either they go separately or they get back together. But yeah, when I looked at it, it looked like they were going the other direction. So it was a
Oh, they
one.
were very much
Yeah,
so. And
yeah,
so, by the way, she was completely shocked when she heard from him on Saturday. And she
yeah.
said, of course, she texted me right away. But I said, number one, I'm definitely going to stay out of this. Number two, this is what Greg said, and that's the extent of what I'm going to
Right, right,
say.
right.
And number three is you get to do what you want to do with this, and I will totally be here to support you. And I saw this really shook her up. But what was really interesting is it brought to her mind full clarity on what was really important to her
Right,
and
right.
what she
Yeah,
wanted to do with the remaining time that she had in the school year. And I thought that's the
yeah.
best I could hope for.
Perfect. So again, like that's a byproduct of direct experience.
And I
You
think
know
it's
what I
because she didn't
mean?
want to feel like that anymore. She's like, oh
Yeah,
my gosh,
yeah,
I'm not doing this again. And I'm thinking,
right.
well, like you said, Greg, 20 something. And what's interesting is I actually bought her a book that was, I think the title was uh 20 or 20 something. Like
Right.
I actually bought her a book with about, just being in your 20s and
Yeah.
not wasting it away and,
Yeah,
stuff
you're
that
trying to figure yourself out and you know, it's especially the early mid 20s. You know, you're just trying to you're breaking away from your parents and you're being an adult and you're getting used to not being a child anymore, but you're having to shed some of those tendencies and you know, for most people, you know, unless they're guided through things, they make a lot of mistakes, but they're usually not bad. They're just painful, you know.
I was just shocked at how much it actually affected me. Remember we were talked about that. I'm like, why am
Yeah.
I
Yeah, it's
bothering?
hard to watch a child go through something. It was hard to watch anybody that you love, you know, go through something.
Mm.
But you know, that's
So,
what your reaction was a very mom reaction. Like dad would be very different, but mom, that's a very mom reaction. You know, dad would be if they touch the stove, they won't touch it to get the hot stove. They won't touch it anymore. You know what I mean? Like dads tend to be a little bit like harsher about it.
I did another mom thing too. I sent her a care package with
Yeah, that's
fuzzy
sweet.
things in it.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
that's sweet.
speaking of shifts, I'm going to share something with you that I know is going to sound, I mean, it sounds weird to me, but I know it won't sound weird to you. All this stuff that's going on with R,
Hmm.
um, Greg, it's so weird, but I'm actually having a little bit of fun watching the
Yeah,
reaction
when
and the things
the
going
emotion's
well.
not there, and it's just like, okay, this is like a chess match. Um, it changes the dynamic and it makes it easier to maneuver. Makes it much easier to maneuver. You know, it's kind of like what I was
Oh.
talking about with Letty. Like you calm down the triggering stuff, and then you go, "Oh, this is how we're going to do this dance. We could do it easier, but if this is the way you want to do it, we could do it." You know. So
Okay.
yeah. Well, good,
Any
good.
any oils to disengage other than the usual
Tuberose. Do tuberose.
to disengage?
Mm-hmm.
Alrighty.
Yeah. Tuberose is very good for letting go. Yeah.
Thanks so much for everything,
You're
Greg.
so welcome. You're so welcome. So we're going to jump over to the prayer petition blessing. Join us if you can. And, you know, it's about 15 minutes or so. And if not, we have our study group tomorrow. And this weekend is the free healing stress. And then, you know, very practical things for dealing with stress, but then also the mashup with last weekend's class with a couple free classes. So pretty much if you had the last week's class, you could just join us. So anyway.
And if we didn't get to your questions, whether in chat or hands raised, please feel free to email us at info@frontoils.com and we'll get back to you guys. Thanks for being here.
Take care, you guys.